and Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Wednesday, the 4th day of December 2019. Getting closer and closer to Christmas. We're getting closer and closer to elections in Dominica, 6th of December. Closer to elections in the United Kingdom, 12th of December. We're getting closer to the 19th of December here in the Cayman Islands. No referendum will be held. Folks, I want to remind all of our listeners, whether you're on the road in traffic, whether you're a pedestrian on the roads, operating any type of vehicle, we again urge you to kindly observe the rules of the road. We know that each day there's more and more vehicular traffic on the roads of the Cayman Islands, and we have to be cautious. You not only have to drive for yourself, but sometimes you also have to drive for the other vehicle, either in the front of you, in the rear of your vehicle, or even on the side as well. So you have to drive defensively in the Cayman Islands, and always remember that the life you save may be your own. For those of you who are celebrating birthdays today, I want to wish you a very, very happy birthday. For those of you who are here in the Cayman Islands visiting relatives for the holiday season, I want to say to you, enjoy yourself. Some of you may have seen the striking changes that have taken place since you last visited the Cayman Islands. I know some persons who have, it's been 3 years since they have been here, and they certainly have seen the changes as well. But we want you to enjoy your time here in the Cayman Islands with family and friends as well. Those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday. If you celebrated one in the past few days, a belated happy birthday. And if you as well, for those of you who have lost loved ones during the past few days, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you, and we hope and trust that your faith will help to carry you through these very challenging times. For those of you who are having challenges from a health perspective, we also want to cheer you up and say to you, be strong, follow the doctor's orders, and most of all, pray. If you're a believer, pray to whatever God that you serve. Pray for assistance as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes. into your vehicles as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During that period, our phone lines are always open, and there is always someone there waiting to take your calls. Again this morning, none other than that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where we encourage you to send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. For those of you who were able to connect, we have no guests in the studio this morning. We were hoping to have MLA Mr. Ezard Miller with us, but we know that Finance Committee is continuing. When I corresponded with him yesterday, he was hopeful to come in and probably leave at 9:30. I know that the Finance Committee meeting went on last night at least until after 9 o'clock, probably 10 o'clock. I'm not sure how late, but I know it was late. And of course, in Mr. Miller's case, he has to travel all the way to Northside, then have to get up early in the morning to be able to beat the traffic to come back down. So I recognize that would have been an extremely challenging situation for him this morning. So I certainly understand his situation. But we hope and trust that we will have some of our legislators on For the Record before the end of the year, if no more than to convey Christmas greetings to their constituents as well. Probably won't be a whole lot to talk about the referendum during that period. As a matter of fact, what we want to change, at least to alter the tenor of some of the things that we discuss on For the Record. We will continue with the political issues, informing you of things that are happening in other jurisdictions as well. But we want to go into gear as far as the Christmas season is concerned as well, and get a little bit more positivity into what's happening now that the referendum has been halted. Things that are uplifting, talk about family, friends, the Christmas spirit as well. Of course, this morning we will talk about the referendum and the decision that was made. We will also share with you what the supervisor of elections has said in relation to the process, because some of you, some 100 and odd persons, have already voted in the referendum. Some 300 and odd of you have received postal ballots, and you need to know what to do with those of you who have received them and haven't sent them yet, and those of you who have already voted and have expectations. You need to know what is happening as well. But again, hopefully we will have our legislators on here after the Finance Committee is completed and the meetings of the meeting of the Legislative Assembly is completed as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that too, because I'm not sure how many of you have been following the proceedings in the Legislative Assembly. Of course, you can follow it live on Radio Cayman 105.3 FM, and in the nights, I think it's from either 7 or 8 o'clock at night. You can follow the previous day's proceedings as well. So sometimes you're getting the live on 105.3 and at the same time the pre-recorded days before that you're hearing as well. I have some issues in relation to the amount of time that is spent in Finance Committee, whether or not we need to continue to do a line item interrogation of the budget, whether or not it has to be line by line. I do recognize the fact that those members of the Legislative Assembly who are not on the government side, who are not government ministers or maybe even backbenchers, do not necessarily get opportunities other than question time to ask questions in relation to issues that are taking place in their constituencies and elsewhere, especially in relation to financial matters, projects, and all of those other things. So this is an opportunity for them during the Finance Committee to not only question ministers, but also question heads of departments and other civil servants who may be involved as well. Which brings me to my suggestion that we need to find another process through which members of the Legislative Assembly can converse with the government, ministers, members of cabinet can converse with them rather than having to go through this long debate in the Legislative Assembly when it comes to budget time. Now, some will say, well, there are provisions in our Constitution for those members of the Legislative Assembly who are not ministers. And I'm not quoting directly from the Constitution. I will find a particular section later on. But what it basically allows for members to make presentations, to be invited to cabinet, make presentations and express their concern, would like to see take place, some of the projects and other issues that they would like to see being handled. Now, some legislators will tell you that they either have not been invited or give some other reason. I am not certain that that is something that takes place as regular as it should. So while we may criticize legislators for asking, some of the obvious questions in the Legislative Assembly, we would also concede that what is in place for them to access and to converse with ministers who have constitutional responsibility for certain subjects, that is limited as well. But that still is not an excuse for those members of the Legislative Assembly who simply grandstand and like to pontificate when they get a mic in front of them. Many of us thought that by airing live the proceedings of the Legislative Assembly, that it was good for people because it gave the public an opportunity to be able to listen, to hear what's going on. But the downside of that is that when you put a microphone in the front of a politician, you have the most difficult thing to get that microphone away from that politician, because they're going to talk, and they're going to talk once they have that stage, once they're on that soapbox. And my criticism is that in Finance Committee, too much of it is going on now. Yes, we have an almost US $2 billion budget. Public want their legislators to be in their communities addressing the issues that they have, rather than simply sitting in the Legislative Assembly talking about it. And in many instances, all they can do is talk and hope Time for us to take a commercial break. I just want to remind you that the phone lines will be open all morning because we have no guests in the studio. The phone lines are open for you to call in. You can call in and talk about anything that you want to talk about. Just don't ask me what my views are as relation to the port, what my position is on that. Because I won't ask you, you don't ask me. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Cayman's public library system started in Georgetown in 1920 when the government included an annual grant of £40 in the budget for the establishment of a subscription library. The library was located in a room above the old jail next to the old courthouse. At the end of 1937, plans were made for building a larger library at Georgetown to include reading and reference rooms. The new building was designed by Captain Rayo Bodden and completed in 1939. The distinctive timbered ceilings was fashioned after a ship's hull turned upside down. The ends of the hammer beams are decorated with the shields of prominent British institutes in England. Lady Ranfurly, wife of a colonial governor, started the project of collecting used books for shipment to British territories where books were in short supply. In 1980, the first trained librarian took over the running of the public library.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner? Think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Hello, boys and girls. It's Christmas story time at the Redley Powery Library in West Bay. Saturday, December 14th, starting at 10:30 a.m. Rotary Central Christmas Story Time, featuring Miss Izzy.
Hi, kid, and welcome to Story Time.
There'll be Christmas story readings, Christmas sing-along, Christmas dance-along, Christmas dressing up, Christmas cupcakes, Christmas snacks for the children. Remember, children must be accompanied by an adult. Christmas Story Time, a children's event sponsored by Rotary Central. Rotary, connecting the world.
Your sale, your choice at Fat Motors is back with the best Christmas sale on the rock. You can save, upgrade, or get cash back on new Fords and Toyotas, SUVs and trucks.
It is your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $6,000 off select vehicles during December. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. Vamp Motors. Drive home your Christmas wheels to
Need a driver or ride the Purple Ribbon Bus on New Year's Eve. This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guest in the studio this morning, so we're going to have an open line for you all morning. We have about 8 minutes before we go to our 8 o'clock news. I want to talk about the referendum, and in order, before we talk about the advice now being given by the supervisor of elections in terms of what the elections office will be doing, I'm sure that most, if not all of you, are now aware of the fact that the referendum process has been delayed. The vote on the referendum has been delayed. We also would have heard that, based on the Premier's statement, that while that vote has been delayed and won't take place on the 19th of December, December 19th still remains a public holiday. As of yesterday, that was the position. I haven't seen anything that has changed that since. So the 19th of December will still remain a holiday. As reported in the Caymanian Compass, in their article, Court Delays Port Vote. And it basically says that the referendum on the controversial cruise and cargo port development will be delayed at least until next year, following a court order on Tuesday. That would have been yesterday. The decision to schedule the poll on the 19th of December before the completion of an updated environmental impact assessment was challenged in court by Shirley Rolston, a leading member of the Cruise Port Referendum Cayman Campaign Group. Rolston also raised legal concerns about the fairness of the provisions for the referendum. Grand Court Judge Tim Owen granted leave to apply for judicial review to Rolston, and a trial has been provisionally scheduled for the 20th of January. That I would imagine, it doesn't say 2020, but I would imagine that's what it is. I'm just reading verbatim from the article, scheduled for January 20, pending courtroom availability. Goes on to say that Justice Owen ordered that the referendum be delayed at least until the judgment is delivered following that trial. So at least, and those words are instructive, as well. So the delay, the minimum delay now is to when the judgment is delivered, and of course we don't know what the judgment will be. So the judgment then will alter things one way or the other again as well. Those are my words. Goes on to say that the National Trust has also brought a legal challenge, but agreed Tuesday to join its case with Rolston's because of the similarity of its arguments on the environmental points. Goes on to say that Justice Owen said Rolston's lawyers had met the threshold to proceed to full trial. And you heard Dr. Steve McPhail and Ms. Theresa Pitcairn talk about the threshold, meeting that threshold for justice to determine that the judicial review should proceed. It goes on to say that he, that is Justice Owens, acknowledged the government had advanced strong arguments in response, but said these were not the knockout blows necessary for him to dismiss the case at this stage. So government had strong arguments, but they didn't have the knockout blow. That is like you're in a boxing ring and you got some nice jabs, but, and you may cut the other guy's face over the eyebrows. He may be bleeding a little bit, but he's still fighting along. And if you don't have that knockout blow, then you may have to go to the judge's decision and decide, go to the cards, the judge's cards to determine the fight. So in this particular case, government didn't have that knockout argument, that strong enough argument that would say to the judge that this case should not move forward. You should not, as saying the case plainly involves issues of great constitutional importance for the Cayman Islands, questions which have never been considered before, because this is the first time that Section 70 of the Constitution, which provides for a people-initiated referendum, has been triggered, the judge said. Rolston's lawyers argued 4 main grounds for judicial review. 1, that Cabinet had predetermined the question and date before the port referendum legislation had been passed. And we know that that happened, and even though corrective measures were taken in the Legislative Assembly to address that, that is still being raised in their application for judicial review. 2, that Cabinet failed to consider important matters, including having due regard to protection of the environment as required by the Constitution. 3, that the question Cabinet set for the referendum was neither fair nor neutral as required by law. I think that's a fair argument as well, even though the Cabinet, the government, has its defense in that regard and said basically they were following international best practice as well. And fourthly, that the failure to provide any campaign finance limits frustrated the intent of the Constitution that a free and fair vote should take place. Very interesting argument there as well. And it goes on to say that Justin Owen, appearing by video link from London, granted leave to proceed on all 4 grounds. So the justice accepted all 4 grounds of argument that the petitioners put forward, which means that the government will now have to defend and vigorously defend those 4 arguments as well. And there are other quotes and stuff from lawyers, but what I thought was interesting for you, our listeners, to know is that the referendum process has been halted. Justice Owen, sitting by video link from London, accepted that there were strong constitutional arguments that were put forward by the petitioners, and as a result of that, the 4 points that they raised all seem to have merit, and as a result of that, they were accepted. When we return after the news, we will talk then about the Constitution, because here it is mentioned, and there were many people who didn't like the idea of us having a revised Constitution, but it has come to the defense of many of us now as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Price Right is 8 o'clock.
Priced Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Priced Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Priced Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Sagicor. Let us put a smile on your face. Call 949-8211.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Island.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Following the decision taken by the Grand Court on Tuesday to delay the referendum, the Elections Office has paused preparations relating to the people-initiated referendum regarding the port. All postal ballot requests received to date that have not been issued will be held securely pending further developments from the Grand Court, and all postal ballots that have been received or that are being returned to the Elections Office at present will also be kept securely. All other activities relating to the referendum, such as mobile voting, are also suspended. Additional guidance will be issued by the Elections Office as the legal matters proceed through the Grand Court. Referendum Day had been scheduled for December 19th, but has been delayed pending a judicial review. A group of Finland's top bone and joint specialists are visiting Cayman's Health Services Authority for a first-of-its-kind Finnish Caymanian Orthopedic Society meeting underway this week. We get more from Radio Cayman's Shanda Gallego.
The inaugural Finnish Caymanian Orthopedic Society meeting, happening through Thursday, will look at in-depth education on orthopedic medicine. According to orthopedic surgeon, HSA clinical head of surgery, and FICO's founder, Dr. Pico Kusela, says the aim is to build rapport between his local colleagues and those in his native Finland. He says Finland and Cayman's differences in climate, culture, and people offer a wide range for discussion around how these and other factors affect orthopedic patients in both jurisdictions. FICOS hopes to serve as a think tank for orthopedic treatment to benefit those who suffer from bone and joint issues. The meeting will include clinical presentations on orthopedic medicine, a tour of the Cayman Islands Hospital, and round-table discussions between visiting and resident physicians. Officials also note that local medical practitioners can earn up to 11 continuing medical education credits for attending the meetings, which are being held in the Hibiscus Conference Room B at the Cayman Islands Hospital. Shanda Gallego, Radio Cayman News.
And the Cayman Turtle Center is known for its conservation of, well, turtles, but those are not the only animals they strive to protect. Carolyn Smith, marketing manager at the Cayman Turtle Center, says white-crowned pigeons and white-winged doves will be released this Thursday to be free in nature and do their part to support Cayman's ecosystem.
After Hurricane Ivan, there was quite a decimation, as you know, of the environment, and this included the habitats for birds. So it's time for them to get out into the wild, and we know that their importance in the ecology of the Cayman Islands in terms of being able to spread the seeds throughout the environment and encourage growth of trees and plants.
To add a bit more magic to the event, a lucky few will be able to personally release a bird. Ms. Smith encourages those to not let nerves get in the way of becoming part of a special moment in these birds' lives.
Oh, it's so much fun. We've had people get a little anxious. However, once they've done the experience, they're just so beaming and enthusiastic. And that is what I would say to people if they're nervous or concerned, that the outcome that you get and knowing that you played a part in conservation is reward that will overcome any fears you may have.
The release is at the Cayman Turtle Center tomorrow at 11 a.m. Now, with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has told NATO leaders they have the chance to strengthen the unity of purpose that's made NATO the most successful alliance in history. He highlighted a furious reaction by the Chinese government to new US House of Representatives legislation aimed at countering the detention of about 1 million Muslims in the western region of Xinjiang. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing said the bill was a serious violation of international law. In Afghanistan, unknown gunmen have killed the head of a Japanese aid agency and 5 local staff. Tetsu Nakamura, a doctor, survived the attack but died as he was rushed to hospital. The Ugandan authorities say dozens of people are believed to have died in a landslide caused by heavy rains in the east of the country. Officials in the Bududa district say at least 20 houses were buried, killing 6 people. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Sagicor. Let us put a smile on your face. Call 949-8211.
Think about something that makes you happy. Did it make you smile? We know it did, because that's what we do at Sagicor. Put smiles on our clients' faces every day. With a large range of products to cover your family, it's no wonder most locals choose Sagicor for their life insurance needs. Serving the community for over 25 years. Let us put a smile on your face. Call your Sagicor advisor today.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Did you know that CPR Cayman is now a registered non-profit organization? The government is spending a lot of money on their campaign, so we need your help to get the word out to as many people as we can. You can make a donation via our website cprcayman.com or call us at 938-5876. This is our first people's initiated referendum for a decision that will affect everyone's future. It's your vote, your future. So make a decision based on fact. You deserve the whole truth.
Radio Cayman 3 to 6 mix on the weekdays. Brought to you by
Cayman Insurance Center, serving the community for 45 years. Don't take chances with your family's future. Call Denise Brown at 814-7229 or Michael Webster at 925-5433.
Every day.
Every day.
All the time.
All the time.
Also brought to you by Merengue Town.
It's time to feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibe. It's time for Merengue Town.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 76 degrees. Relative humidity is 81%. Barometric pressure 29.96 inches and rising. The wind is variable at 4 knots. Overnight low temperature was 78. Synopsis northwest of Grand Cayman, moving southeast. The forecast for the Cayman Islands for today, calling for fair skies with less than a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures will be in the low 80s. Your winds will be northwest to north at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. And the forecast for tonight, calling for fair skies with less than a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures falling to the low 70s tonight. Your winds will be north to northeast at 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Expect a low tide at 10:45 this morning, high tide this evening at 2 minutes past 5, and a low tide again tonight at 11:29. The sun will set this evening at 5:45 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:46. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Friday morning.
Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Can you imagine where Cayman runs off renewable energy? We can. Learn how you can join government and be an energy advocate.
Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page to learn more.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning. Let's take a look at traffic. Coming from the east, expect delays this morning as traffic is bumper to bumper on the Linford Pearson Highway. Busy traffic also coming off the Linford Pearson Highway and Agnes Way and off Bobby Thompson Way. Steady traffic. Godfrey Dixon Way and Eastern Avenue traffic flowing moderately. A good pace, steady pace of traffic on North Sound Road. And traffic steady coming off Esterly Tibbetts Highway headed towards the Butterfield Roundabout. Light traffic coming from the Westway four-way stop and light traffic on Owen Roberts Drive. And some sections, School Road, moderate, other sections, steady traffic. Now, if you see any accidents or incidents on Cayman's roads, give us a call here at Radio Cayman, 949-6990. Have a good morning and buckle up.
Do you ever have those days when you have to get a super early start, or you're out late and want something fresh and healthy to eat? Subway has now opened their 4th 24-hour location for you early birds and night owls. Subway at West Shore Center on 7 Mile is now open 24 hours. So now you can grab any of Subway's fresh menu items any time of the day at 4 convenient locations. West Shore Center 7 Mile, Countryside in Savannah, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers West Bay. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Close out the decade and start your 2020 with a trip to remember in the beautiful and pristine gem of San Andres, Colombia. Enjoy the amenities of a tropical paradise without the crowds. Vacation packages are available, including accommodation, tours, transportation, ferries, plenty of water sports, and nightlife. Flight departs December 18th and returns January 8th. Don't delay. It's time to get away to exotic San Andres, Colombia. Call Caribbean Aviation Solutions at 927-0682 and book your dream vacation today.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio this morning. MLA Mr. Ezra Miller is planning on coming in, but we know that the Finance Committee of the Legislative Assembly went on until late last night. One of the reasons that they were able to go on late also was because the government had canceled their community meeting that they had planned in relation to the port referendum, and that cancellation took place as a result of the court's decision in relation to the application for judicial review and accepting that application for judicial review. So earlier, I shared with you from the Cayman Compass the decision of the courts, the 4 points that were put forward by the petitioners, and the granting of the application on all 4 points, the arguments on all 4 points by Justice Owen via video link from the United Kingdom. Now, haven't done as much research on this yet as to whether or not Justice Owen is a permanent is a member of our Grand Court here, or whether or not a special judge had been appointed to hear this application. And for those of you, anyone who knows what the situation is with that, please share it with us. You can either send it to our WhatsApp, 925-3261, or email us at for the record, one word, for the record, at candw.ky. Let us know what Justice Owen's position is, whether or not he's a permanent member of our Grand Court, or whether or not, in this case, it was a special judge appointed. And now what I will share with you, because everyone has their concerns in relation to this, the supervisor of election, Mr. Wesley Howell, and what he has said in terms of the pause that has been placed on the referendum preparations. And again, from the Cayman Compass, it reads that the elections office has pressed the pause button on all preparations for the 19th December referendum on the heels of the Tuesday's Grand Court decision to delay the vote on government's port project. In a statement late Tuesday, the elections office said all postal ballot requests received to date that have not yet been issued will be held securely pending further developments from the Grand Court. And the quote is, all postal ballots that have been received or that are being issued to the election at present will also be kept secure, the statement said. I'm going to read that again. All postal ballots that have been received or that have been returned to the elections office at present will also be kept securely, the statement said. So if you have already cast your vote, returned your postal ballot, it will be kept secure. So that's for those of you who already cast your vote. The brief statement also indicated all other activities relating to the referendum, such as mobile voting, are also suspended. So mobile voting, which would allow you, in some places it is called early voting. For those persons who are working on election day, the nature of their occupation would make it difficult for them to be able to vote on the referendum day. That mobile voting was for them, as well as mobile voting for persons who physically are unable to go to the polls. So that has been halted. That process has been halted. Goes on to say that additional guidance will be issued by the elections office as the legal matters proceed through the Grand Court. And then the article says that last week the elections office said a total of 280 ballots were issued for the referendum on government's $200 million cruise berthing and cargo port project. It said that just under 30 of the potential ballots issued had been returned, with the elections office receiving 81 sealed postal ballot envelopes as of last Thursday. And you heard the supervisor of elections here on For the Record on Monday, giving us those updated figures as well. And then the article goes on to say Tuesday, Grand Court Judge Tim Owen. So I guess he is a Grand Court member, a member of the Grand Court, because it doesn't say otherwise here in this article. So I think my question has been answered. He is a Grand Court judge here in the Cayman Islands. Of course, he was in the UK at the time, so that was by video link. and it points out that he granted Shirley Rolston, a member of the Cayman Port referendum, Cayman, leave to apply for judicial review of the referendum. And then it also speaks about the National Trust, which has filed similar legal action, agreed to join Rolston's case because both actions tackle the environmental aspect of the project as well. So, as far as postal ballots that have been issued, when they return, they will be held securely. Now, some of you may have a question in relation to, I have received my postal ballot. Should I still go ahead and cast my vote and return it to the elections office? Can I hold on to receive the postal ballot but have not yet returned it to the returning officer? I think we have a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. I was going to ask you about the postal ballot, but you answered that one to me. I guess I'll wait for that one because I know people that got theirs, but they haven't returned them back yet.
Okay.
So I'll wait for that one. And another question regarding the port. Is government going to halt their process of the port going forward, or as the court's ruled, or can anyone update us on where they sit with that, or they continue as what they were doing all along?
Well, it seemed that the application for judicial review has to do with the referendum process. So I would venture to say that when you say that, you mean in relation to having meetings, or in terms of plans, design, or whatever, with the preferred bidders?
Yeah, we're going forward. This because we had a meeting scheduled yesterday.
Right, that was canceled.
And they said they was going to give us the update of the port development. So we're trying to figure whether the government is going forward with what they had planned while waiting for this referendum, or they have put everything on hold.
Good question. Good question. Okay. Good question. We'll try to find that out. But I think one of the indicators that we had with that is that last night they had a meeting scheduled in one of the districts, I believe, and that meeting was canceled. So it may appear as if there will be a halt on that. The other question, caller, would be also, will we continue to not? They will put a halt to that as well. Yes. So
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Very good question. And that caller's question in relation to the postal ballots, I guess it boils down, there's no hard and fast rule as to what you should do, because your indications are the postal ballots that have been sent to you, they're sent with specific instructions on what to do. I would say, and these are only my views, that if you feel that your ballot is secure where it is with you, then you may want to hold on to it until you know what's going to take place from there. If you feel that the elections office has sufficiently security in relation to the holding of those ballot papers, and you've heard Mr. Wesley Howell talk about the security, how robust the security is for that, then you may want to still send your ballot back to the returning officer. It will go to the elections office. It will be secure as well. But there are many, many questions to be asked or to be answered in relation to this whole process. And it will all depend on the results, the outcome of this whole judicial review process. The court, that is with the the process was so flawed from the beginning to the end, bearing in mind the 4 points that were raised by the petitioners, that this whole process may have to be done all over again from the referendum question, from the legislation being put in place. Remember, at first you needed to have the legislation before the question was posed, and it was done the other way around. That was corrected by our Legislative Assembly. But it is quite possible that the whole process may have to be reviewed. And again, like I said, remember the 4 arguments that were put forward by the petitioner, Ms. Shirley Rolston, right? First one, that Cabinet had predetermined the question and date before the port referendum legislation has passed. It is possible that they may have to go back and do that all over again. The referendum bill, which is in effect now, does that become null and void? Do we need a new bill? The other point was that Cabinet failed to consider important matters, including having due regard to protection of the environment as required by the Constitution. That's a completely different argument. That the question Cabinet set for the referendum was neither fair nor neutral as recognized by law. And do we address that by having an independent body that has expertise in referendum questions, deciding not what the question should be, but whether or not the question is fair as required by law. And not only fair, but neutral as well. Should that decision be left to the government, or at the end of the day, should there be some certifying body, some certifying organization that looks at the question and certifies, yes, this is fair as well? And the other question was that the failure to provide any campaign finance limits frustrated the intent of the Constitution that free and fair vote should take place. That's another thing. Do we place then limits on how much can be spent on this campaign by either by the main proponents of it or otherwise? A very, very difficult one, because when there is a general election, you have candidates and you have agents of candidates, and you have various sides to that question, either for or against it. So we have to make provisions, or my question is, do we have to make provisions for private citizens who may take out ads to say support the port or not support the port, as opposed to the government and the CPR and the National Trust? All of those things need to be considered. My take on this is that despite the fact that to a certain extent this whole process will be an adversarial process, that all and sundry who are concerned with this have to sit down, the representatives, their legal representatives, have to sit down and find common ground on how to move forward. Because if we want it to be fair, and if we want it to be neutral, and if we say at the end of the day that we want the people to have their say, then everyone else who's involved in it, the lawyers, the government, everyone, they need to sit down to decide how can we best go about ensuring that the people will have their say in a fair and democratic way. So everyone is going to have to sit down. We have to remove ourselves from the adversarial process, and at the end of the day, get out there and try in terms of how they should cast their vote. But it must be done in a peaceful manner, not an adversarial way as well. We have to take a commercial break. We have one caller on hold. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Here is a public service announcement. In light of the court's decision, all Cayman Islands government public meetings this week in East End, Northside, and Cayman Brac have been postponed until further notice. Once again, in light of the court's decision, all Cayman Islands government public meetings scheduled this week in East End, Northside, and Cayman Brac have been postponed until further notice.
Your sale, your choice at Vat Motors is back with the best Christmas sale on the rock. You can save, upgrade, or get cash back on new Fords and Toyotas, SUVs and trucks.
It is your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $6,000 off select vehicles during December. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. Vamp Motors. Drive home your Christmas wheels today.
Ocean Med is open for appointments at Bayshore Mall. The only healthcare facility on island designed exclusively for women, offers a wide range of radiology-based medical screening and diagnostic tests, such as mammograms and ultrasounds, with state-of-the-art technology, full OBGYN services, a complimentary healthcare coordinator, and a stunning facility equipped with calming, multi-sensory exam suites. Ocean Med is dedicated to providing competitively priced healthcare excellence to women in our community. Book your appointment today. Call 946-2326. Or visit oceanmed.ky.
ValueMed Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
Williams Production presents Linda Randall in concert at the Lions Center Tuesday, December 31st. All supporting the NCVO and the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. Tickets are only $25 pre-sold, $35 at the gate. Purchase your tickets now at the Cayman Islands Conference Office. Christian Enlightenment Center, and Tony's Toys, Burger King, Cayman Airways, the Physiotherapy Center, Praise 87.9 FM, Radio Cayman, and the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. It's Linda Randall in concert, Tuesday, December 31st at the Lions Center.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio, so we have an open line for you to call in. One caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. O.C. It's Johan Moxham. How you doing, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Moxham. I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I thought I'd call in since we're stuck in this bad traffic here. And first of all, thank you for offering those sort of comments and sage advice that you did just now about the need for negotiation and compromise and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, reasonable, professional. It's what somebody in your position is accustomed to doing. You know, you've held high positions in the government. You're now a talk show radio host, and you are well versed in a lot of different things. And
thank you.
I'm acknowledging that because what I find most shocking, Mr. O.C., just to give you context and facts and to help the listeners, CPR have never not tried to engage in a professional, responsible, and mature manner. We've written 8 letters to the Premier. 8. None have been acknowledged. None have been replied to. Asking pertinent questions, seeking information, requesting meetings. There was a pre-action letter that was sent. Everything that has happened, Ms. Ralston and her application for a protective cost order and being successful enough to move to the judicial review stage, all of this has been documented along the way. Those same letters to the Premier of the Cayman Islands, Mr. Alden McLaughlin, were copied into the Attorney General, were copied into the Cabinet Secretary, were copied into the Auditor General, and copied into the Governor, Martin Roper, and his head of department. So there is clear indication that we, from the outset, have recognized the need to ensure that, one, dialogue, respectful dialogue, and communication, open, transparent communication, is at the center of all of this. Now, I can't be responsible for the Premier choosing not to respond, for the Premier's attitude or arrogance. But what is wrong, sir, is the Premier doesn't get to set the tone or the terms as to who he's prepared to meet with. Because, sir, with the greatest of respect, over 6,000 registered Caymanian voters signed the petition. CPR were at the front of this agenda. So the Premier cannot, as he has said privately, I will not meet with Johan Moxham, and I will not meet with this one, and I will not meet with that one. Sir, this is not about you in your personal capacity. You don't need to like me for what I stand for in my personal capacity. But what I'm doing and what we did collectively was exercise our democratic rights and use constitutional provisions to trigger a people's initiated referendum. I say all of that, sir, because it's impossible to have respectful dialogue, discourse, and negotiation or compromise when one side, including the pre-action claim, and here's the funny thing, once we got the legal opinion, once we did everything that we were supposed to do, and this was explained to the governor, we've had 5 meetings with Governor Martin Roper. We've had 3 meetings with the election supervisor, Mr. Wesley Howell. But our elected officials, the Premier and cabinet members, refuse to meet with the same constituents and citizens that represent CPR. How are you supposed to have a conversation or compromise and dialogue when one side deem themselves too good to listen to their constituents and a group that is now representing and bringing forward a people's initiated referendum?
Caller, do you really believe that it has to do with arrogance or feeling better than the other side, or because they basically entrenched their position in their position and adamantly refuse to diverge from that position, that they were entrenched as far as their position is concerned?
I think it's a bit of both. You know the Premier personally a lot better than I do, but the Premier does have an excessive sort of arrogant view of life. He's a narcissist, but we all are. Let's be honest. We all are arrogant and confident in our beliefs. But when you are the holder of the office of Premier, this isn't about you in your personal capacity. This is about you representing all of us. And the failure of the Premier to acknowledge, to respond, to respect, and to deem it necessary to speak to CPR is no different from the position that the Premier took with the two ladies, Miss Day and Miss Bodden.
But don't you think moving forward, Mr. Moxham, that again, we're talking about responsible dialogue, that getting away from the personality assassinations is one of the things that we need to do as well?
You're absolutely right, but let me give you context. Sir, you cannot have the Premier of the Cayman Islands go onto the floor of the LA and lie to the people and tell them that I was a part of a bid for the port in 2012. He fabricated facts, and he used parliamentary privilege to protect him, because had he said that on your radio show or anybody else, I would have sued the pants off of him, because it's an unmitigated lie. So you can't have one standard for the Premier and then one standard for everybody else. All I'm saying is we need to have consistency and understand this isn't personal, sir. This is how democracy works. This is how people are holding their government officials elected, and it's all fair, legal, and just because the Constitution has afforded us those opportunities to do that, and it's what we've done. 8 letters, and none of them have been acknowledged.
Right, and we now hope and trust that the approach will be completely different now. We hope and trust that after whatever decision is made by the courts in relation to the application for judicial review, we hope and trust now that the discussions will take a different direction, hopefully.
I would hope so, but I would say this. Would you like to be in the government going into an election with this hanging over your head? I'm talking about the referendum. I'm talking about potential, the livelihood or likelihood of the project. All of this could have been avoided had there been less ego, less arrogance, less entrenchment, and just more professionalism. Because I'll say this, the governor isn't elected, but the governor responds to every letter, every email, everything. Everybody else did, except the Premier and cabinet members. The cabinet secretary has all of those things. We put them out in the public domain. I have nothing to hide and nothing to lie about. That's just a fact. But personality politics seems to be more important than what's in the best interest of the country. And I know why I'm doing this. I don't want to live in the next Jamaica. I don't want to live in the next Bahamas. I don't want to live in the next Turks and Caicos or Trinidad. And when your elected leaders feel that they do not need to respond to one person, two persons, or hundreds of people, you then lead down this path, because the legal actions could have been avoided had there been more humility, more sound judgment, and better leadership.
Okay, and we hope and trust that now we will see that later on. Caller, I want to thank you very much. We have to go to a commercial break. We also have another caller on hold. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Hello, boys and girls. It's Christmas story time at the Redley Powery Library in West Bay. Saturday, December 14th, starting at 10:30 a.m. Rotary Central Christmas story time featuring Miss Izzy.
Hi, kids, and welcome to Story Time.
There'll be Christmas story readings, Christmas sing-along, Christmas dance-along, Christmas dressing up, Christmas cupcakes, Christmas snacks for the children. Remember, children must be accompanied by an adult. Christmas Story Time, a children's event sponsored by Rotary Central. Rotary, connecting the world.
We are Radio K-Man, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio K-Man.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, for the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth sing glory to His name.
Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio K-Man.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. Going straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Good morning.
Mr. OC.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
Yeah, just one I wanted to make sure I click in there. I want to know if you know what time it is.
Tell me. Tell me.
All right. It's not looking like bedtime. I think it's probably
Time is coming. It's here.
Yeah?
It's here, actually. And Christmas Day is coming.
Yeah. They look like happy times then. But happy times for who, Mr. OC?
I'm waiting for you to tell me. I can't answer the questions. I can tell you what happy times are for me.
Oh, well, happy times for me is when I see people, all working together.
Mm-hmm,
It looks like we all are working together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just the last question is I was wondering about this delay I was hearing about.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Alden, he going shopping or what? He going to go Miami for a little bit or what?
Don't know what his intentions are. But on your first second point that you raised there in terms of people working together and being happy about that, what I'm also happy is that we have institutions that are in place. We have a constitution that worked for all involved. We have a judiciary that is working for all as well. Those are fundamental organs and institutions in a democracy. And again, in this little small democracy that we have here, this little small experiment in democracy that we have in the Cayman Islands, it has proven again that we have a constitution that is effective irrespective of what we may, much we may criticize it, and we do all recognize that our constitution does have its shortcomings and maybe not as opportune as we should, but we seek to remedy and to correct those defects that are in our constitution. And again, we see a completely independent judiciary that cannot be swayed by political leanings at all. And that is something to be happy about.
Last question, Mr. OC. Is that all right? Does the Constitution need any, need to be changed or in any way?
There are some amendments that are needed, and we see some that are coming forward now. And of course, the big question of that is whether or not we should have allowed the premier and the leader of the opposition to agree that they were didn't reach the threshold of national importance where a referendum was necessary. There are some people who are arguing, that point. But there are changes. There are changes that have been recommended by the Constitutional Commission as well. Constitutions are viewed as living documents, which means that they have the ability to grow, to continue to grow. And that growth usually takes place by amendments. It's like you buy a used car and you hope this might not be a good analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway. You buy a used car and you don't know what the problems are with the car until you start to drive it. In this case, we had a new car in our 2009 Constitution, and until we started to work under that Constitution, we did not know some of the shortcomings of it, even though some were anticipated. But no country will ever get a perfect Constitution.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, O.C. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller, as well, for those very important questions that you asked. Another caller. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. O.C., last night I was privileged to speaking to a gentleman who is very, very business savvy. And he said to me, he said, I can't understand that if the port is going to only cost $200 million, why is it that we're going to give away the port to the cruise line for the many years that they will have it, with a budget that we have now? Why don't we borrow $50 million? Borrow $150 million, inject $50 million into it, and at the end of the day, we pay back this loan, this debt, and we own our port. Why give it away to the cruise line? And he has a very, very valid point, because $200 million seems minuscule to the budget that we have now. I mean, if you really look at the budget, right? But this comes to mind that if we look at the cost overruns to the airport alone, and then we look at the cost overruns to the school in the Clifton Hunter, because it was projected, I believe, that it was going to cost $60 million or something like that. And I remember one of the big construction firms here saying, we can't take it for that. There's no way it can be built for that. And then we know the end of the day cost over $100 million. My take is that I don't think that the truth is being told as to the true cost of this port, because if it was going to cost $200 million, why involve the cruise lines into it? Why get them to become the financiers of this, when we could in fact finance it ourselves and still maintain control in the port and still be making all the money? Because I would imagine just the fees from the cruise ship passengers would be enough to service that debt. So, I mean, notwithstanding the fact that I still don't support the port, or don't support the port where it's being in that position, that location. But, I mean, that there is very, very interesting. Well, why, we'll see if we can build a port and it's only going to cost $200 million. I believe that's something that you can still the same consortium, in the absence of the cruise industry, to build it. Yeah, they build it and we pay them and build it. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, I thought that the gentleman was, it had some merit to it.
Yeah, it does. And maybe the response to that would be the government wanted to be in a situation where they didn't incur any more debt. I think there might have been a question in relation to whether or not we would have exceeded our debt ratio and needed special permission from the UK to proceed with it, even though I believe in the early stages, the Minister for the Overseas Territories did come out in support of an enhanced birthing facility or something to that effect. I could be wrong, but yes, it is a valid point that the person that you had that conversation with would have raised as well. Thank you very much, caller, for that. Let's see if we can take one more call before headline news at 9 o'clock. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning, Mr. OC.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. I wanted to just call in to agree with the last caller. He's 100% on point with that comment about why not finance it ourselves, get a loan out, like putting this port into the, at some point, if something were to happen, the cruise, the consortium that's funding it could easily take it on default, and it should have another Hurricane Ivan hit us that causes a massive, business delays, all sorts of different things that could happen in a massive hurricane, and the government can't make payments. We're gonna be in a situation where we could potentially be at a situation where we could lose the port as well. So I think the government of the Cayman Islands needs to look at financing this thing through a way that we, the people of the Cayman Islands, can ultimately own it and reduce the risk of a loan can also be, defaulted on, and whoever's got it can have particular, the collateral that they might want for it might be the same, but you can structure loans differently than what I kind of understand from the way that they're doing this. We need to be smart about the way that we finance this. We've been talking about the Cayman public investing and putting their pensions into, infrastructure. 20 years, I don't actually retire if I keep working for another 25 years, and I'd be happy for my pension to go into something that gets a return back. If the government is so sure that it's going to be a guaranteed return to be able to promise the cruise lines it, why not open it up to the Cayman Islands pensioners to use some of their funds that are being diverted to other places, using it for their infrastructure? Why not allow us to make a decision to put some of our pensions into financing it along with the government itself?
Okay.
Get another loan like what the caller said. So
yeah. And of course, that debate hasn't taken place. The debate more has to do with whether or not we really need one, as opposed to the financing option, to it as well. But caller, I want to thank you very much for that. We've reached the top of the hour, 9 o'clock news. Folks, please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back after headline news at 9 o'clock.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Following another successful audit by the American Association for Laboratory Accreditation, the Water Authority's laboratory accreditation has been extended through November 2021. The Water Authority says the accreditation ensures that the lab meets the latest accreditation standards. NATO leaders are meeting near London as tensions between members threaten to overshadow a summit marking the military alliance's 70th birthday. The 3-hour talks are expected to cover issues such as cyber attacks and the strategic challenge posed by China. In opening remarks, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson reminded members of the alliance's principles of one for all and all for one. Tuesday saw sharp exchanges between the U.S. and French leaders over many topics. And a Christmas advert from exercising bike company Peloton has been widely mocked on social media as being sexist, out of touch, and even dystopian. The ad, which has been viewed by millions on YouTube, sees a woman receive an exercise bike for Christmas from her husband. She then records her workouts over the following year in a vlog and presents it to him as a way of saying thank you. The criticism knocked the company's shares, which closed more than 9% lower on Tuesday. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Quickly switching gears, one of our listeners wanted to remind the motoring public that the Cayman Islands Marathon will take place this Sunday, and urging motorists to be extremely cautious, try to avoid the course area as much as possible, and watch for runners and support persons. Now, if the course is as the usual one, it will start on the waterfront around Edward Avenue, in that area on the waterfront, and proceed through South Sound up towards through Red Bay, Prospect, and back down through town. So you will see lots of signs, you will see lots of people on the road, runners and support personnel. So for those of you drivers who like to get frustrated and believe that the roads of the Cayman Islands are exclusively for you to drive on, not for pedestrians, not for bicyclists or others, you want to be extremely careful and keep your cool. Stay cool when you see runners on the road, and be extremely patient with them as well. I want to switch gears for a minute. I'm going to come back and we have a caller, so no, I'm not switching gears. Staying in the same second gear. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record.
Hey, good morning, Doc. How are you doing?
Good. This is C. McPhail.
Yes, I was going to call you, but there was uncertainty. Wasn't sure whether or not Mr. Miller was going to make it. We were in conversations yesterday in the evening, and the indication was that government had cancelled their meeting, and as a result of that, last night canceled their meeting, so the Finance Committee continued on. I don't believe that they finished last night, and they probably started again at 9:30 this morning.
Okay, that's good. What I called you about was a statement you made earlier.
Uh-huh.
I think to try to paraphrase what you said, that the Constitution serves everybody well.
Uh-huh.
Well, I take umbrage to that.
Yeah, I know you would.
Because it doesn't serve everybody well.
Mm-hmm.
The two main provisions of the Constitution that enhances democracy
mm-hmm.
and that gives the Caymanian people the say into the daily workings of the government, politically and administratively, are the two provisions that the elected government has completely ignored and are acting ultra virus of the Constitution. That means acting outside of the Constitution, and the actions are completely illegal. And that is the standard in public life law that they refuse to put into force. In Section 117, the district councils,
advisory district councils, yes.
In Section 119.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know of any other place in the world except for the Banana Republic and, of course, some of those African countries and some of those Asian countries where you have dictatorship, where a government could ignore the highest law in the land, their own constitution, and refuse to abide by it. That is what we have here. And to come with the excuse that boards and directors of boards and stuff are reluctant to serve because of the law is not enforced, then what you need to do, either you need to get rid of the board or you need to put the law into force. Similar, that's Section 117. Similarly, for Section 119, it says that there shall be district councils in every electoral district to advise the members of that district about the nuances of the district. They have refused to put that in because they do not want anyone to advise them or to talk to them, similar to what Mr. Moxham called in earlier and said, when they wrote letters and they tried to have meetings with them, with the government, they ignore them. It's a similar thing for the reasons for not wanting to have district council. After they get elected, they think that the election belongs to them, that the seat that they hold belongs to them, that the position that they hold is personal, and they do not understand that they are getting paid to represent the community, the districts in which they are paid handsomely to represent. And so I am looking forward in the future to some people to gather some funds so that we can take those matters to court and that we can get those matters rectified through the judicial review, because what they're doing is completely illegal and ultra virus of the Constitution. And I am so surprised that I spoke to the governor many months ago on another radio station, and he said that he was looking into having them put the standard of public life into law. That was months and months ago, and nothing has happened. Not a thing has happened about it. And even the administering country, the United Kingdom, has not tried to put them in place, because that's what their supervisory jurisdiction is for, is to see that they have peace and order and good governance in the Cayman Islands, and they completely ignore that. And that is something that I hope that people would be cognizant of and try to raise some funds so that we can go to the court and to have that rectified as they did with their arrogance with the referendum.
Two questions before you go, Doc. Two questions. This one in relation to what you've said earlier. Do you think that it would have been appropriate for the minister for the overseas territories, with these new amendments to the Constitution, to have said, listen, yes, we want to do these things, but there are certain things that you still haven't done that are in your Constitution now, and to basically, that would have been a good point for the minister for the overseas territories to have insisted then, and maybe under directions or a request from the governor to the minister for the overseas territories. So the question could be, is the governor going far enough as he should be going if he's made a commitment to see that these things be done, to let the UK minister maybe strong arm, put a little bit more pressure on us here, on our legislators here in that regard?
Oh, so see, thank you for that question. I agree with you 100%. We discussed that on your show several times. We discussed that those were points on your show several times, and say they should never have allowed any amendments until they fulfill the provisions of this Constitution that we have now, instead of adding on things but that we don't know if they even want to fulfill them. Okay,
and the other question, the Cayman Compass reports that Helen Mountfield QC, who represented or is representing Shirley Rolston, said that there was a manifest, quote unquote, manifest inequality of arms between government and those opposing the port in terms of their finances. I want you, for the benefit of our listening and viewing audience, to explain the term equality of arms from a legal perspective.
Well, equality of arms simply means if you're in a war and one person has huge cannons that can kill 1,000 people in one shot, and you only have a small rifles that fires one bullet at a time and can only kill one person. That's an equality of arms. It's the same thing in legal terms, that you have all of the legal the legal power on your side, and you just overwhelm the other side with who does not have the wherewithal to bring with the legal resources to bring to comply with you or to compete with you. That is what they mean, and that is true, because an example of that is all the money that the government spent to push their agenda for a yes vote for the port, and in the legislation that they brought for the referendum, they ignored any provisions in there for finance spending. So that is one of the blatant inequality of arms that the 2C was talking about.
Okay, so one last question. So you wouldn't oppose the government's ability to spend, but you would want to put a limit or to ensure that it doesn't overwhelm the other side in terms of their because of government's quote unquote limitless resources.
That's right. That's right. And that should have been part of the legislation that they brought. Especially since this is the first people's referendum, they should have gotten it right. And they should have taken time to cover all of those bases, all of those rights, so that it didn't wind up into a challenge like they did in the court.
Okay.
And I'm so surprised that the lawyers didn't go through this with a fine tooth comb to see that we have covered every base. We have covered every base, and we are on all fours with the rights of the people. Because the rights of the people. Remember now, it was the government that set the stage for the referendum on Section 70. It was this government. They went to England and they said that this is how we want the referendum to go. We want, since the people want to stop the government from doing something that the government wants to do, it has to be a higher standard.
Yeah, higher threshold.
That higher threshold than just the people who are voting. If the people want to stop a government project, it has to be a higher standard. So the standard that they choose was 50% plus one of the electorate, which is a high bar. And if you have all the resources and they have no resources, however they are going to even challenge you to reach the high bar. And I agree with what you said. And we need to fulfill the provisions of our Constitution that gives us democracy. As you said, it is not democratic when governments, when the cabinet, an executive can refuse to obey the Constitution and they go along daily as if it never happened. And this is what we need. And we need next year come in to raise some funds and to go to court to force them with an order of mandamus to obey the Constitution. That's what we need to do because to go into another election again soon with all of these amendments to give them more power, and they're not even recognizing the provisions that gives the people a say. It is atrocious, and it is reflective of a complete banana republic.
Thank you very much, Doc, for that. You have a great day. We will certainly be in touch as well. We have one caller on hold, but we have to take a commercial break. When we return, we will take that caller, give you sufficient time to express your views as well. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Did you know that there will be no impact to 7 Mile Beach and no dredging in Hogstye Bay for the cruise berthing and cargo port project? Any potential damage to 7 Mile Beach was, is, and always will be a deal breaker for government. If there was any evidence that 7 Mile Beach would be harmed, the project would be stopped, regardless of how far it's gone. Truth matters.
Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We understand that lots of people are following the show on YouTube this morning, and we want to encourage more of you to do the same, and you simply can join us by simply subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. And thanks for those who are following, and I hope and trust that you're enjoying the show. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning.
Changes to the referendum. The first one is, I know that you always read from the old newspapers. I was wondering if by chance you might have had one, or if you may have come across this article. It would have taken place somewhere around 1972. It was a strong northwester that had come in, and there was a ship that was in trouble right out there in the vicinity of where Sheila's Snacks, a little building, was. And I remember at the time, Eldon Rankin was the hero of the day because he had managed to save all of the people on the boat except for one. That person panicked and jumped overboard and drowned. I can't remember the name of the ship. For some reason, I always thought it was one of the Kirk ships. I could be wrong. Somehow or the other, the Gulf Star comes to mind, but I'm not 100% sure on the name. So I just wondered if you may have had anything at all on that. And it did take place, I know for sure, before 1976.
Okay, and it wasn't the Kirkbride?
No, the Kirkbride, as I'm told, was in 1976.
Okay.
And that the Kirkbride went down at night.
And we know that the Merkel sank when it...
the Merkel went down way back in the early...
Yeah, and I think that was... she was actually in tow to the Cayman Islands. I don't recall seeing that in the Trade Winds newspaper, but I'm sure that one of our listeners, hopefully
one of your listeners, one of the Georgetowners would, because the whole of Hogstay Bay, people couldn't get too close to the actual, I guess that is South, Harbour Drive, the pockets of the streets. And anyway, I know it had to be somewhere around 1972.
Okay.
It was a very strong nor'wester.
Yeah. The next question?
And the next question is to do with the register of electorates. I was advised that on the 5th of every month, that list is updated as far as removing people who have been or who are now deceased. And if that is the case, then clearly that's not being done, because my mother passed last year in August, and her name is still on the list. And I know this because I was contacted.
As we speak, it's still on there.
It is still on there because I was contacted this week. I advised that her name is still on there, and I was told what I needed to do in order to have her name removed.
Okay. Now, in comments in relation to the 5th of every month, maybe that is a process that the registering officers themselves personally do, but the register of electors is only officially updated, changed, when after each registration period, when you have the revising officer, who's a senior magistrate, who will authorize any changes as to the removal of persons from the list and addition of persons, and also hearing claims and objections. So that's when that takes place, and that's quarterly, not monthly.
I'm not sure if of people.
Right. The Register of Births is required under the elections law to provide the supervisor of elections or the registering officers with the names of persons who are deceased. Yes.
Okay. Well, however it works, I'm sure they're listening. Maybe they'll call you and they'll give a good explanation and perhaps advise people who this affects, that they'll know what to do.
Well, I can basically tell you based on experience. Like I said earlier, the Register of Births is required to do that, and the registering officers will also peruse newspapers, notices that come from funeral homes. One of the difficulties that they have sometimes is when deaths take place overseas. But if a family member does see that a deceased family member's name is still on there, they can certainly advise the registering officer or the elections office of that, because they're not perfect. Mistakes are made. The one good thing about it, though, is that the system that we have in place, that I don't believe that anyone would be able to go and vote in your mother's name.
No, that wasn't my concern.
No, I'm not saying that it was. I'm just reassuring people that that's that.
Not my the thing is, my mother was blind, and so she was on the list for mobile voting. And as you know, they were getting ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Very just the other day.
Mm-hmm.
They were about to do her area, and someone.
But you do realize that you have to make an application on each election to be treated as a mobile voter. It's not something that remains permanently in place.
He was still on that list.
Mm-hmm.
I was contacted anyway because someone just happened to know that she had passed last year,
mm-hmm.
and I would imagine the easiest place, if someone is responsible for updating that list, the easiest place to get that information would be from the registrar. Because
Caller just pointed out to you that the registrar is required by law to provide that to the elections office.
All right. Okay, so that's that. And the other one is to do with these KY1 codes that came in some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure everybody's experiencing the same problem. Maybe they don't see it, serious enough to make a complaint, or perhaps to call a talk show to speak about it. But I've been having a problem from the time it was introduced. Most times I don't get my mail, just like I get everybody's mail coming to my box number, but of course not for my district. And I do take it back inside, and I'll just say not XXX, my district. And some of my mail coming from overseas, most important mail I might add, it does not reach me. It ends up going to Kentucky, because that's the code, the U.S. code for Kentucky. And the way that this mail is done, it goes through a reader, and they only pick up codes. And, of course, KY being Kentucky, it gets sent there. Now, sometimes they're nice enough to forward it back to the sender, or they will just either, dump it. They never send it on. And as a result, I've had to have certain things then sent to me by FedEx. Just the other day, I was waiting for a package. This was from September. I asked them to remove the KY1 code from it.
Yeah.
That was done. Then I got the package just this week here. So when these
and the question that you have, because we do have other callers on hold, caller.
And on that was, is it necessary? Because it's not accepted internationally or even regionally. If you go online and you enter the code, it says it's invalid. So, why do we need it? What really is the purpose of it? it certainly couldn't be to decipher mail between 3 islands. So I wonder if they would really, sit down, have a think about that, and decide if it's necessary at all.
Okay. Caller, I want to thank you very much for that. Let's see if we can grab another caller before we go to our next commercial break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Ossie.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Mine is going to be about a half an hour, so you better make lots of time.
Okay. Well, you'll have to wait through a commercial break, but we'll try to accommodate you as long as we can.
I noticed our friend out in the Brockner was trying to put you on the spot a few days ago.
Yeah, he's my good friend too. We play dominoes when he comes down. We play dominoes. He'll bring us bullets and stuff like that. So that friendship hasn't, been affected as a result of those conversations.
I knew you wasn't your fault for that. But I thought Mr. Miller was going to be on this morning, Ossie.
I was hoping so myself, but extremely busy. And, if the finance committee finished at 10 o'clock last night, he would have to drive home and then leave home again probably about 5:30 to get here to beat the traffic. Yeah.
All right. My business this morning is with the roads. Ossie. That's what I wanted to speak to Mr. Miller regarding. I would like to know who this person are or who they are and what are they thinking about wasting our money. The roundabout there in Red Bay is the way they got it decorated with all these pretty things and cones. Is that just a Christmas? I can come back down after the Christmas, or that is something that is going to remain there?
I don't think so. I believe it's going to remain there, and it is unfortunate because I believe if you go to any other jurisdiction that has a number of roundabouts that you don't see those sort of structures in there. But I think it has to do with the fact that our motorists in the Cayman Islands, some do not have the required ability to get out there and navigate the roads of the Cayman Islands. And some simply ignore the rules. And as a result of that, we have to put in additional measures to try to control them, which is unfortunate.
Oh, see, I'm an international driver. I've driven all over the world. And I have never in my day seen anything like this, because what I'm seeing there doesn't make any sense to me. They just went and they put in about 100 feet of extra road, right, that goes right back into bottleneck. Now, what sense does that make? Why are they wasting our money? It makes, unless they can find a way to create new roads, right, or get rid of some of the vehicles, they're wasting our money. There's nothing they can do about it, right?
And you're talking about below the Red Bay roundabout, going towards the Grand Harbor roundabout there, that area as well?
They just put there.
Now, do we believe that some people are of the opinion that eventually there's going to be a third lane in there? So where it's stopped by the fence now, that the intention is after the acquisition of property, that third lane is going to run all the way down going towards the South Sound Road.
But also, you don't think it would make more sense if they had waited till they got that permission from the owners of that property right there where they stopped, whether it was possible or there was going to be a fight against it? I mean, I don't see no sense in just doing what they did there, because it's a waste of money until you get proper approvals and stuff, and then you put something in place, and the people's going to be a lot happier, because what they do now, they got 3 lanes. One goes into town just like they it always did, and then they got one little strip there that's 100 feet long that just totally confuses people because you don't know where you're going. And to me, that is a waste of money. If you can't come up with a proper solution with the problem, just don't let people that comes here have any more driver's license. I know it's not a nice thing that people want to hear, but we have to do something. We have to either let these people know they can have to ride bicycles or get scooters, because there's no more room for foreigners to come in and be able to drive in this country. It just is just not feasible. It cannot work, and we just need people to be able to see these things. It's impossible. It can't work. I'm sorry.
Okay, caller, I want to thank you very much for that. A little bit past our commercial break, but sometimes we do have to afford our callers to
West Bay. Saturday, December 14th, starting at 10:30 a.m. Rotary Central Christmas Storytime, featuring Miss Izzy.
Hi, kids, and welcome to Storytime.
There'll be Christmas story readings, Christmas sing-along, Christmas dance-along, Christmas dressing up, Christmas cupcakes, Christmas snacks for the children. Remember, children must be accompanied by an adult. Christmas Storytime, a children's event sponsored by Rotary Central. Rotary, connecting the world.
Starting November 1st to December 31st, you can earn double points every time you use your Fidelity credit or prepaid cards. And with added protection of instant text alerts, 90-day purchase protection, and chip and PIN technology, you can shop with confidence. Fidelity. We're good for you.
Get your daily dose of sports updates every Monday through Friday with Radio Cayman's local morning sports report during the 7 a.m. news. Proudly sponsored by High Fashion and Design Studio. Truly your one-stop fashion studio. Located in Cayman Trade Center, 199 Eastern Avenue. Call 945-4415.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio. We're going to go to another side of the Caribbean and look at legal arguments that also took place in relation to the voting process. So here in the Cayman Islands, we saw an application seeking judicial review being allowed to move forward, and that will be dealt with on the 20th of January. Those of you who follow Caribbean news, Caribbean politics, you would have also heard me in my early introduction this morning talk about the fact that on the 6th of December, general elections will take place in the Commonwealth of Dominica, not the Dominican Republic, but Dominica, and in Rosé, Dominica, there's this article, and this article is coming actually from a Barbadian newspaper, and it is entitled "Court Can't Halt Elections," says Dominican judge. And it reads, a high court judge Tuesday upheld the application by lawyers representing President Charles Savarin and the Electoral Commission that the court had no jurisdiction to entertain an application by several Dominicans aimed at postponing the December 6th general election. Justice Bernie Stevenson, in an oral judgment, said she agreed with the argument put forward by the respondents that since an election writ had been issued, the election process had started, and the only remedy was through an election petition once the elections had taken place. The conduct of election in Dominica is governed by the Constitution. When an election is called, the country enters into a period called elections. The parliament is dissolved. This is what the judge said. And she noted that while the applicants may have legitimate claims, they cannot be entertained at this time. And I will share with you some of those claims that the judge said were legitimate. Justice Stevenson said that the matter then could be properly addressed by way of a petition. That would be after the elections. And said, noting that to rule otherwise is to ask the court to predict the outcome of an election. So that judge said if the court intervened, what you're basically asking the court to do is to predict the outcome of an election, and she was not prepared to do that. Goes on to say that attorney Carter Shillingford, who headed a team of lawyers on behalf of the petitioners, told the High Court that she would appeal the ruling. She's quoted as saying, "We are not surprised at the decision and will appeal. We remain firm in our conviction that the elections should be stopped, and there are too many irregularities for the December 6, 2019 election to go ahead. We have also indicated to the judge that we will appeal." It goes on to read that the petitioners, including the president of the Concerned Citizens Movement, Loftus Durand, Nicholas George, Dr. Irvin Pascal, Oswald George, Arthur Lee Robin, and Dale Laurent, had asked the court to issue an interim injunction restraining the parties concerned from holding the elections on the 6th of December or at any other date prior to February the 5th, 2020, unless the procedures are fully in place to hold the elections. Apart from Sovereign and the electoral commissions, they had also named the chief elections officer, the cabinet of Dominica, the attorney general, and the state-owned DBS radio as the respondents. In her ruling, Justice Stevenson said that the elections in questions can only be challenged by an election petition, and that she was making no award of costs to the matter. Now, I read this and I share this with you despite the fact two different jurisdictions, two different constitutions, two different issues, one in relation to a referendum, the other in relation to general elections to take place. One of the complaints that the petitioners had in this particular case had to do with the electoral rolls and whether or not they were up to date. I believe that there were issues in relation to house registration, and there are those who believe that the way that the election was being called and the procedures were all done to benefit the government of the day as well. So here, in the Dominica, you find that the judge refused to halt an election process and pointed out that the only way to challenge it is to do so by way of a petition after the elections. And I guess that petition would be whether or not those persons elected are can be seated in their legislature as a result of that. Here in the Cayman Islands, we see an application being accepted for judicial review. The only thing that the judge of the Grand Court has done is has said there are merits to the petitioner's arguments and the application for judicial review will take place. We will still have to get a decision on that judicial review as well. So the only decision that we have here in the Cayman Islands in relation to the referendum now is that the referendum scheduled for the 19th of December will not take place as a result of a successful application seeking judicial review. It hasn't changed anything else at this stage other than the holding of the referendum on that date. I hope and I trust that that is clear to everyone. We have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. QC.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Rundown, huh?
I'm glad they didn't say QQ. Anyhow, yes, sir. Yes, in my job, I get asked a lot of questions many times by people who are not foreigners, and I'm part of most of my job. And they do ask very pertinent questions, and I like to be able to be knowledgeable in my answers as best as I can, or factual. But first of all, I'd just like to say to people, and I guess a lot of people are confusing the two things. There's a difference between a general election and a referendum. Because a referendum helps 21,000 people, whatever amount of electors there are, to make a decision on a issue or a certain amounts of issues. The elections make a decision on the 19 people to be chosen to make those decisions for us, because we know it would be very cumbersome to make hundreds of decisions involving hundreds of people or thousands of people every time. Anyhow, one of the questions I got asked, and I never thought about this, was for the judicial review, number one, and I'll hang up on this, were the 6,000 petitioners or whatever it was that signed the petition, were they consulted? Would they have to have been consulted by the organizers of the People's Initiated Referendum to say whether you would like us to go to a judicial review, because it would of course delay the referendum or stop whatever. The other question is this. There has to be, I am assuming there must be some period for the decision to be made by the Judicial Review Committee of Judges or whoever it is, as to what goes forward. In other words, can this go on indefinitely? That does the Premier have a right to say, well, it's time for this judicial review must be?
Well, that date has been set, the 20th of January. The 20th of January is set for the hearing.
Yes, but what about if the hearing goes on and on? This is the point I'm trying to make and establish, that I get it right, that it cannot go on for an indefinite period of time.
And it won't. It won't. But at this point in time, the ruling of the court has to be respected.
I understand all that.
Yeah.
What I'm just talking about, is there a period by which it must be completed? So
there's no specific period.
Okay, so the leader for the political arm of government here in the Cayman Islands, or the leader of the political part of our country, would not be hanging up then on not knowing what is going to happen and how can he move forward or whatever else. I thought there might have been a length to it that it must be decided on, because that could technically mean that can the referendum go right into the next, before the decision is made when to do it, into the next election time. Is this what I'm trying to understand on the first question, to if you can answer that one for me about the consultation?
I guess on the last question, caller, it could go on for an indefinite period of time. It certainly could go on for an indefinite period of time. What was the first question that you had, caller?
Whether they had
consulted the
signers of the petition.
I don't believe that is required. I mean, it's a very insightful question that you raise, because what you're basically saying is that these 6,000 signatures on there, these are the same people they went out to seeking their signatures to trigger a people-initiated referendum. That trigger was pulled. They're challenging the pulling of that trigger. Did they in turn now seek the advice of those 6,000 people, or were they required? I don't think that they're legally required to. If they were, I believe that would have been a challenge that was put forward by the government, whether from a standpoint of respect, whether or not they should or they did, I can't answer to that.
Yeah, I just wondered, because someone posed that question to me.
Very interesting one.
Evening, and I thought it was. I had never ever thought about that, to tell you the truth. But I did think about, and people have been asking about that situation that we might now find ourselves in, and how can it be solved, or what can the Premier do within his period of government before the next elections. So we are sort of at a stalemate thing. So I can answer people properly.
Sure.
They do ask me who people are not resident here.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much, caller. Ms. Susan, we have to take our last break for the morning as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Your sale, your choice at Vat Motors is back with the best Christmas sale on the rock. You can save, upgrade, or get cash back on new Fords and Toyotas, SUVs and trucks.
It is your sale, your choice at Vamp Motors. Save big on the new Ford Explorer, F-150, Edge, EcoSport, and Focus with up to $6,000 off select vehicles during December. Get huge savings on the Toyota RAV4, Rush, and Fortuner as well. Best of all, you decide if you'll take the full discount, get cash back, or upgrade your new ride. Vamp Motors. Drive home your Christmas wheels today.
Here's a public service announcement. In light of the court's decision, all Cayman Islands government public meetings this week in East End, Northside, and Cayman Brac have been postponed until further notice.
Hello, boys and girls. It's Christmas story time at the Redley Powery Library in West Bay. Saturday, December 14th, starting at 10:30 a.m. Rotary Central Christmas story time featuring Miss Izzy.
Hi, kids, and welcome to Storytime.
There'll be Christmas story readings, Christmas sing-along, Christmas dance-along, Christmas dressing up, Christmas cupcakes, Christmas snacks for the children. Remember, children must be accompanied by an adult. Christmas Storytime, a children's event sponsored by Rotary Central. Rotary, connecting the world.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have one caller on hold. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C. I just need to ask a question and then maybe a comment.
Sure.
But I would have.
Why don't you make the comment first and then ask the question after? This way I'll remember the question.
The comment is when in LA. I've heard on the radio, they were talking about speaking about medical and the hospital and whatnot, and I was wondering why in the world would they question the heads of the hospital and on that really didn't have any answers for us, and not bring medical personnel in with them so the questions could be answered. But that's here and neither here nor there, because that's what it has always been, and it's going to go on and on and on and on. So many people do not understand, including me, why these things are not answered in the way they should be answered.
Okay, can I pause you there so we deal with that now? And I would agree with you with that. And what I believe what we need to look at are the procedures in relation to Finance Committee. When the budget document is available, whether or not those members of the Legislative Assembly who have questions in relation to line items in the budget, whether or not they should be allowed to submit their questions early in the process so that ministers or heads of departments or section heads or whomever they're seeking to question can prepare their answers before. This way, they will be able to get possibly more accurate, more timely information than someone sitting down there and saying, I don't have that information now, or let me consult with the person behind me, or I'll make an attempt to get that to you later on.
And then it never happened.
Yes.
And the public is left in awe.
Right.
Whatever did happen. Then the next thing was, maybe you even said that, I wasn't here. My car wanted to go for a drive at Foster. And
you don't have one of those self-driving ones yet?
I'm on the road. It just switches in there for I don't know for what reason. But anyway, I remember Mr. Premier had said that whether the election go on, the referendum go on, or whether it don't, on the 19th of December, it was still going to be a public holiday. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, ma'am. And I think Miss Susan shared it. No, she spoke about the meetings, the announcement that she made. But the Premier made it clear that the 19th of December will still be a public holiday.
Oh, great. Great. Then I can do some other things that I need to do. Sorry about being by yourself this morning, but you always do well. It's a great show. Susan is a great girl, and I hope she gets plenty Christmas gifts, plenty to eat, and plenty gifts. Cars, Ferraris, and all that stuff. Anyway, you have a great day, and may God bless our islands, and God bless you as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before we close off, one of our listeners spoke about the driving in the Cayman Islands, and I discovered, possibly last week, maybe a few weeks ago, anyway, that they're one of the jurisdictions where the nationality predominates in the Cayman Islands, that they're now proposing legislation or getting ready to introduce legislation in that jurisdiction in relation to obtaining a learner's permit to drive. Because what currently exists in that jurisdiction is that when you want to learn how to drive and to get your driver's license, you simply submit the required documentation and you're issued with a permit to be able to learn how to drive. And then from that, then you move on to being able to take your driving test. Now, here in the Cayman Islands, in order to get a learner's permit, you have to pass a written test. I'm not even sure if there's an oral one for those persons who maybe have challenges in terms of taking a written test. But you are required to take a test in order to get a learner's permit. Now, if we here in the Cayman Islands are accepting qualifications that come from jurisdictions that have lower standards than ourselves, is there any wonder that we have the atrocities that we have when it comes to driving on the roads of the Cayman Islands? Now, bear in mind, I am not dismissing the fact that we do have many bad Caymanian drivers as well. But we don't need to add to the numbers of bad Caymanian drivers by accepting any sort of driver's license that come from other jurisdictions, or if it means that they only have to take the road test or take the written test as opposed to the other. That should not be the case when those countries have lower bars, lower standards than we have when it comes to qualifying. And ours come into question as well, because I have always maintained, I'm almost like the tax man with this one as well, that just a written test and a road test for driver's license is not sufficient, that there should be some form of classroom instruction that goes with it. And I know sometimes we like to copy what other jurisdictions do, and other times we say, oh, you always want to follow, what the U.S. and other places do. In New York, in the 70s, there was something called a 3-hour class. You took your written test to get your driver's permit. You either opted to learn to drive on your own through a family member, or you went through an accredited driving school. But before you could make an appointment to take your road test, you had to go through that 3-hour class training. If we're going to attack the whole issue of bad driving in the Cayman Islands, we have to attack it from all fronts, and we have to make the driving tests more stringent as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these 3 beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
Okay, man,
the voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access
to information.
Local, regional, international, this is Headline